Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we're going to do a little comparison between the aliens as described by people who have been abducted by them or people who have just encountered them, and the beings that we see within the 2023 Las Vegas alien video. We're going to do a little comparison, and I think that what this is going to do is going to show that all of these people over all of the decades who have said that they were abducted or had seen aliens, that they were actually being very truthful and being very brave by going public with their encounters, right? And it's also going to show that the people who tried to make fools out of them, people who laughed at it, they're the ones who are stupid and dumb. Okay, that's what we're going to show today, right? But before we even get going on that, I just want to mention that in the previous show I did a review of the new documentary from Dan Farah, The Age of Disclosure. I thought it was great, but I did make a mistake in that episode. For some reason I mentioned that James Lekatsky was in it. He's a scientist, Dr. James Lekatsky, but he wasn't in it, and so I actually edited that little part out of the Spotify and YouTube versions, and because that was an error. For some reason I was reading about his new book, New Insights, on the same day, and for some reason I got my wires crossed in my mind, and when I should have been saying Hal Puthoff, I was saying James Lekatsky. So I just want to point that out, but I did make the correction. So anybody who saw that episode and where before I made the change, I just want to let you know that was an error, and I did put a little note in there in the YouTube version anyway that it was a mistake. So I just want to get that out of the way. But so I got a lot of comments on that with that regard to that show. There was a lot of people who liked it. Some people said it's the same old thing all over again. I thought it was good because, like I said in that episode, I think it lays it all out, right? I think it lays it all out. It's a historical document, and you have all these different people, current and former government officials, commenting on the record about this cover-up that's ongoing, the legacy program, and so on and so forth. But we're going to take it to a different stage here today, because this is real. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, I know the Age of Disclosure is, there was no evidence offered in that documentary. It was just people talking, right? That's all it is just words. But within the public domain, as some people know about this, some people don't. But there is the evidence now within the public domain, as I talked about ad nauseum on this show. And that evidence is the totality of evidence associated with the 2023 Las Vegas alien incident. And when you look at the creatures in that video that appear, there's all different sorts. Tall ones, short ones. I mean, it seems like the gang was all there, like I've said in the past. And I want to point out that what we see there is what these other people who have witnessed these beings, whether they were abducted or they just encountered them, have been telling us for a long time. That's because now we see the evidence. Now this backs up all of that stuff. All these people over the years who have been abducted, who told different researchers that they were abducted, went under hypnosis and recalled memories that were hidden of their abduction experiences. All these people were telling the truth, and now the evidence is out there that backs all of that stuff up. Right? Of course, okay, let's say a small percentage of them were making it up, right? What about the rest, right? What about the rest? What about all the people who don't want their names out there? There's a lot of people who want to remain anonymous who have talked with researchers, like, for instance, David M. Jacobs. There's a lot of different people who he's interviewed, over 1,000 different witnesses, 1,000 different abductees, and he talks about these people in his books that he writes, like The Threat and Walking Among Us. But he uses pseudonyms for these people because they don't want their names out there. They were hoping they were crazy. But there were so many different researchers over the years that have looked into this, and they never really got the credit from the rest of the scientific community as they should have. Like people like like John Mack, people like Bud Hopkins, people like David Jacobs, people like Leo Sprinkle. A lot of these people aren't even with. Actually, Jacobs is right now at this moment is the only one out of those four who are still alive. The late Dr. Carla Turner, she was another one. She actually wrote about this, talked with different people who were abducted, as well as had her own experiences, right? Just so many different researchers over the years. And yet it's still something that's not taken seriously by the scientific community. And that was one of the points made in the Age of Disclosure. Some of the people talking about this, some of the names, the big names like Lou Elizondo, among many others, were saying the scientific community really needs to begin to take this seriously. Now, they didn't really get into the abduction phenomenon in that show. They talked about other things, the craft, the cover-up, the legacy program, the fact that there are some people within the Pentagon who thinks it's something spiritual and not physical. They think it's demonic and things like that. They talked about those kind of things, that the issues that are helping to prevent disclosure, right? That's what they were going into. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to show you the evidence that there are not only they were talking that documentary was focused mostly on the craft and the cover up and the reverse engineering and the recovery of alien bodies. We're going to talk about the fact that there's something here with us right now, and over the decades they've been abducting people. Like, for instance, I'm going to pull up on the screen some images right now of some of the drawings made by the children at Ariel School back in 1994. Of course, that story there in September of 1994, in broad daylight or just after 10 o'clock in the morning, the kids were outside on a recess and the craft landed. Alien beings exited the craft. Over 60 kids saw this. The 60 elementary school kids saw this. They reported to the teachers about what they saw. A handful of the kids had received telepathic communication from the beings. The beings showed them scenes of destruction and talked about the dangers of technology. And after it was all over, there were different researchers who interviewed these children, including John Mack and Cynthia Hines. And some of the drawings that they provided, this is what they look like right here. Here was a drawing in progress. You could see on the screen right now. Look at your classic kind of alien being. What struck me about this one was the shape of the hands here. The pointed fingers, 3 pointed fingers. That's what I saw when I was a kid. I talk about my experience back in the 1970s when I was a little kid, where I wake up one night and there was something in my room, and I saw its arm and its hand, and this is what I saw. This is what I saw. That's what it looked like. 3 pointed fingers. Well, it was almost points. They came to almost points at the tips, but it was very, very close. But you look at the face. You see the face here, right? Look at that. Here's another drawing from one of the kids from Ariel School. Look at this. Another, of course it's primitive, right? It's only a child's drawing, but you see what looks like an alien creature. Here's another one right here with the craft and a creature, right? Here's another one with 2 creatures right there. And here's another one with creature and craft, right? And now when you look at these things and then you go back to the Las Vegas alien video, you see images like this. I mean, these are some of the creatures right now that I'm showing that are real, that were within that 1 minute and 41 second long video that was filmed by the Kenmore family during the early morning hours of May 1st, 2023. You see it right there. That this is what they look like. This is what those kids are describing, and we see these kinds of creatures phasing in and out of view throughout that 1 minute and 41 second long video. It's incredible, but they match up with these descriptions of these kids from Zimbabwe back in 1994. Let's look at some. We're going to look at some other images now. Some of them that have been drawn by adults. Now, this one here, this is from an abductee. This was Kathy Mitchell, who started having alien abduction experiences back in the 1960s. And during a documentary, I'm going to have but just before I go on here, there's going to be a bunch of different links here for different videos and documentaries. Some of them are from that one very popular YouTube channel called Eyes on Cinema. You'll find links to episodes on there about this. You'll also find, links to some other sites that I'll be talking about, referring to in the description for this episode. So just so everyone knows. But anyway, Kathy Mitchell, this was a taller creature. You look at this thing, right? And this looks very, very similar to some of the creatures we see within the Las Vegas alien video. This was a tall one. This is what Kathy Mitchell said about this. She says, "The entity I remember is very, very tall. The face was exactly like a praying mantis, and it moved its head in a very jerky-like manner. And I'm pretty sure, just in my own heart, that this is not the first time in 1965 that she had these experiences." This was during an interview that she did for a documentary back in the 90s. But you see, you look at this creature right here, and then you look at some of the things that phase in and out of view in the Las Vegas video. This is the same thing. And now look at this. This is another image. This was Kim Carlsberg, she had her first encounter back in Malibu, California, back in 1988, and she actually wrote a book about this. I'll leave a link for that as well in the description. This is what she said. She's about her abduction experience. She says, "There's one being in particular that I always recognize, and he's not a gray. He's taller, he's thinner, he's got a bigger head, he's got bigger eyes, his limbs are very praying mantis-like. I remember being on the table with my head turned away, not wanting to look at this creature, and when I looked at him, I just recognized him as the one that I hated. You find yourself on a table and these creatures around you with instruments, and you have no idea what they're doing, and they don't tell you." So that's what she was saying. And then when you look at that the Vegas video, you see creatures like this, including this creature right here, which also looks very similar to the same kind of being as described by members of the Allagash Four. Of course, the Allagash Four, another investigator, Raymond Fowler, he investigated that case. There were 4 young men, including 2 twins, Jim and Jack Weiner. They were abducted while they were on a Allagash wilderness adventure in 1976 and in Maine, and they had some missing time, but they didn't realize till over 10 years that they were abducted by aliens, and all of them went under hypnosis, and they recalled seeing these insect-like creatures, and they didn't like them. These guys were, when they were recalling these memories, they didn't like them. But if you take this image of this creature here and you put it side by side with this is a drawing from one of those guys, and I've talked about this before on the show, and you put it side by side with this thing here, this looks like the same thing. Are these the same kind of mantis creatures that other abductees have talked about, other people? I think so. Yes, most certainly. Right? And here's some, we're just going to go through some other drawing. Look at this one here. This is a weird one. Look at that. Now, if you take that, this is just from different abductees that drew these images. These are taller creatures, right? And you take this in that very early stages of that video, of the Las Vegas video, right before they go into the yard, right before they get scared out, and right when they started filming, this thing shows up. Look at the shape of its head. This was sent to me. This was an enhanced version sent to me by a friend of the podcast, Sean Catlin. Thank you very much, Sean. As you can see, look at the head, the way it's shaped here. It's triangular. You can see an eye here, an eye here. Look at this thing. All right. Look at it. If you look really close, it looks like the mouth is open here too, right? So, and you compare this, right, this thing right here with some of these other drawings from people who have encountered these beings. This is what we're talking about here. All of this works hand in hand, right? It's hand in glove, right? It all fits. We start seeing, we actually, people have been talking about these things for years, and then when you compare these images with what pops up throughout that video, it becomes clear that, yeah, okay, this is real. And of course, for people who, I know I've done a lot of shows about this. I'll just make it very brief here. What happened was something came falling out of the sky, some sort of an object. The object itself, there was anomalous qualities to the object itself. It made a hard landing in the backyard of this Kenmore family right in Las Vegas right before midnight on April 30th, 2023. And the witnesses said they heard, after this thing landed, the craft became invisible, and they heard what sounded like thousands of footsteps running off in different directions. They reported seeing 2. They called up 911 eventually after they tried to go in the yard to scare these things away, but that didn't work. So then they called 911 up. The police showed up over an hour later, and by the time the police showed up, the object that landed there, along with the creatures, were apparently gone. But they only reported seeing 2 tall creatures. But then when we looked closer at that video over time, we noticed that there were a lot of other things going on there. There were a lot of other beings in addition to these tall creatures that we're showing on the screen right now. There was things like this. There's some more alien drawings based on abductions, right? Like this one here, or this. Look at this. You see these creatures here, right? Or this, here was someone that was brought into a room where there was an incubation chamber. Apparently what's going on here with these beings is that they abduct males and females. They remove sperm from the males. They remove eggs from the females. They mix those with alien DNA somehow, and then impregnate the women, and then bring them back a couple of months later and remove the fetus, and then take care of the rest themselves. And this was an abductee shown this incubation chamber right here. You see all the little chambers here with growing fetuses in there, and here's the alien beings standing around. And if you look at these alien beings in this drawing, right, and you compare them to what some of the imagery we see phasing in and out of view in the Vegas case, it's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. Right? And then you look at this. Here's another drawing from someone, an abductee. Look at this. And then you look at this, and then you look at some of the imagery from the Vegas stuff. It's the same kind of creatures. This is what we've been talking about for a long time. And also, these are the same kind of beings that are responsible for cattle mutilations. I think it's very clear now. I mean, no one's ever been busted mutilating cattle, draining the blood out, removing body parts from these animals using laser technology. No one's ever been caught doing it. We've known about this since at least 1967, but no one's ever been caught with it. Here's a picture. This was something from there was a couple in Mount Vernon, Missouri, back in the early 1980s, who noticed in broad daylight that there was some sort of a craft landed near their home, and they saw these weird creatures, a taller one and two smaller ones. There was a cow there that was laying down. It was conked out somehow, and they floated it into this cone-shaped craft. You see this thing right here? This is very similar to some of the stuff that we see in the Las Vegas alien videos, right? All of these images, right? It seems like when you compare these drawings by people who encountered these creatures, and with the images that pop up throughout the Las Vegas video, it becomes very apparent that they're the same thing, right? The same thing. Like this thing right here. This thing, to me, looks very, very similar to what I like to call the undeniable backbreaker. The one, there was a portion in that video, about little over a minute into it, where this little head pops up back near this heavy equipment that was in the backyard, and you put this thing beside the this thing, right? And it's the same thing, right? This is the same thing as this. I talked about this kind of thing before. You compare this with the cover of Whitley Strieber's book Communion. It's the same thing, right? That's what it is. So this, to me, just solidifies this idea that, yes, alien abductions are real. Cattle mutilations by aliens are real. All of these things are real, and we have the evidence now that backs up the claims made by people who have encountered these things themselves, right? There's just absolutely no denying it at this point, right? And before we go on, I just want to pull up a little article here about alien abductions, and we'll talk about that. This is from latest UFO sightings. I'll leave a link for this as well. You'll see a number of different images here of drawings, either drawn by the abductees themselves, or somebody drew them based on the descriptions that were provided by the abductees or the experiencers. This is all abduction drawings right here. You can see people brought into craft, or they have weird kinds of examinations performed on them by these weird looking creatures, the same creatures that we see popping in and out of view on the Vegas video, right? The video, by the way, which has been confirmed as authentic by a world-renowned crime scene reconstruction expert named Scott Roeder from Ohio, right? He talked about that. We talked about that over a year ago, but yet the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about that. And also, I want to point out that a lot of people in the UFO community don't want to talk about it as well. But what we see in these images and these drawings by people who have encountered these creatures, whether abducted or just encountered them, whichever way, right? It's all the same. These are the same kinds of beings, right, that we see in that video. But anyway, let's read through this article a little bit. It talks about alien abduction. It says alien abduction phenomena have long been a topic of fascination, fear, and skepticism Among the many accounts reported by individuals who claim to have experienced extraterrestrial encounters, a recurring and chilling element is the presence of a metallic examination table. This setting is often described as the location where abductees undergo various medical procedures performed by non human entities. The similarities among these testimonies, spanning across decades and cultures, suggest a pattern that continues to intrigue researchers and believers alike. Yeah, now here was something from another. I just want to read some before we go on with this article. This was a woman named Cindy Vadavaz, who in 1973 had an encounter along with her mother. She was on her way to a ballet class, and then later on, she remembered under hypnosis what had happened with the kind of beings she had seen. Here's what she said: "They had large heads and big black eyes. They put me onto a table and they showed me a long needle, and they put the edge of the needle into my navel." She was 12 years old at the time. So this is the kind of activities that these creatures are engaged in with us. So I just wanted to point that out. But anyway, continuing back with this article, it talks about the common themes of the examination table experience. Number one, the setting and restraints. Many abductees recall finding themselves lying on a cold metallic table inside a spacecraft or a sterile clinical environment. Often they describe the room as dimly lit with strange equipment surrounding them. Some report being restrained either physically or through an unknown force that renders them paralyzed. Despite their conscious awareness, they are unable to resist or move freely. Number two, the entities performing the procedures. The beings that abductees report encountering vary in appearance. The most commonly described are the Greys, characterized by their short stature, large black eyes, and thin bodies. However, another frequently mentioned entity is the praying mantis-like creature, often described as taller with an elongated head and jerky movements. These beings are perceived as overseeing or directing the procedures while the Greys conduct the examinations. Yeah, now when you look at those videos, you see the jerky movements of these creatures in action, right? So again, all of these witness accounts of what they encountered or what they saw, it actually matches up with what we see within that video. Number three, the medical procedures and physical examinations. The core of the abduction experience often revolves around invasive medical procedures. Victims describe being subjected to tests that resemble human medical examinations, but with an unsettling level of detachment and precision. Common reported procedures include neurological examinations. Some abductees recall instruments inserted into their heads, ears, or eyes, often experiencing sensations of pressure or pain. Reproductive and gynecological procedures. A significant number of female abductees claim to have undergone gynecological examinations, including the extraction of eggs or even the removal and implantation of fetuses. Male abductees frequently report sperm extraction procedures, implant insertions. Many individuals claim that foreign objects were implanted in their bodies, typically in their ears, navel cavities, or limbs. These implants are believed by some researchers to be tracking or monitoring devices. Well, that recalls, in my mind, the very excellent documentary from Jeremy Corbell, Patient 17, where he was working with the late Dr. Roger Lear, who died before the movie was done getting made. And Lear was removing implants from different abductees, and there was no earthly explanation for these things. They shouldn't be here. Continuing here, it says surgical-like procedures. Some abductees describe incisions made on their bodies without experiencing bleeding, as well as the removal of skin, hair, or tissue samples. Yeah, a lot of these people who get abducted, they have scoop marks. They find scoop marks on there, like the aliens scooped out a section of their flesh, and there's like a hole left on their body. Number four, telepathic communication and emotional manipulation. Unlike human medical professionals, these extraterrestrial beings rarely communicate through speech. Instead, abductees frequently report receiving telepathic messages, sometimes reassuring but often cold and emotionless. Some individuals claim that they were instructed not to remember their experiences or were made to feel a strange sense of calm despite the invasive nature of the procedures. Yeah, some people talk about this. In fact, just recently, if you remember, Magic Mike Batista, that guy from Missouri, he saw this craft coming down. He filmed it with a cell phone camera, and he felt all of a sudden like calm, and he really shouldn't have been feeling calm. He felt like there was nothing wrong, everything was okay, but he said it wasn't normal to feel that way during this scenario. Number 5, unexplained scars and physical evidence. One of the most perplexing aspects of alien abduction stories is the presence of physical evidence. Many abductees discover scars, marks, or even embedded objects beneath their skin that they cannot explain. In some cases, these marks appear overnight without any recollection of an injury occurring. Some abductees, upon medical examination, report having tiny metallic implants that defy conventional explanations. And there's a lot more to this article. I'll leave the link so you can check it out for yourself. But I think that this is excellent stuff because, this is what's been happening. And we're like a lot of us in this world are pretending like it's not happening. It was ridiculed and over the decades. And how could you ridicule something now when you have the evidence to back it up when you see these greens? Now, we don't know why that craft came down in that backyard back in 2023. We can't say, right? But one thing we can say is that it did come down there because we have the evidence of it coming down. We have the evidence of it falling from the sky, something falling from the sky. Multiple different video sources showed that the object had no heat signature. We know that. It made some sort of an oscillating sound. We know that, right? And also, we have the 1 minute and 41 second long cell phone footage that was filmed by that family after the thing landed in their yard. And we see all these creatures all over the place. And all the creatures that we see in that video match up with a lot of the descriptions provided over the decades by people who have encountered these beings face to face, right? So there's no denying it anymore. Now, I just want to point out that it was, I guess, or almost around 16 months ago, June of last year, when I wrote a big, after Scott Roeder had made his findings in April of 2024, right? He made the determination that video was not fake, that it was authentic. There was no CGI, no special effects, and that there were entities in the video, right? Just as the family described, right? They were actually there. So at some point after that, it was a couple months later, I sent an email message to the Department of Defense as well as to the Department of Energy. And the Department of Energy, by the way, along with the Air Force, are two of the entities that are really, really part of this cover-up, more so than other government offices, right? According to that new documentary, Age of Disclosure. And I never heard anything back. I laid it all out. We actually had, by that point, there was some other discoveries we had made. I laid it all out for them. They never responded, right? What are they going to say? All they could do is lie. They didn't even send me a letter to tell me that they think I'm nuts, right? That's all. I expected that, right? I totally expected that. And then, of course, more recently, we had those 2 shows on the History Channel. The Proof is Out There, and then the Ancient Aliens, where this incident was mentioned, but they totally dropped the ball. They didn't talk about the evidence. They didn't talk about how big of a story this really is, right? They just completely poo-pooed it, right? The Proof is Out There made it sound like there's nothing to this at all for the most part. And then Ancient Aliens just talked about it for about, a minute, 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, something like that, 30 seconds. I think it was absurd. They actually interviewed Scott Roeder for this episode, but they only used 30 seconds of a 2.5, 3 hour long interview. So it's like it's being covered up by the mainstream. So with that in mind, I decided, just for the sake of history, right? I sent a message, a news tip to the New York Times. I laid it out for them last Thursday night. To this point, I have not heard back from them, but we'll give them a chance. But I just want everyone to know that I did reach out to the New York Times and I laid it out for them. And let's see what happens. Anyway, let's go through this letter that I sent to them. This is what I wrote. I said, in 2017, the New York Times, wait, hold on. I wrote, in 2017, the New York Times ran an article about an alleged UFO cover-up and presented leaked Pentagon videos that purportedly depicted UAP. Today, a New York Times review of Dan Farr's Age of Disclosure was published, and the writer indicated there is nothing in the film that would cause a non-believer to become a believer. For the past 19 months, I have been presenting solid evidence of non-human intelligence on Earth on my podcast, but the mainstream media really hasn't picked up on it yet. Fox News Digital ran a series of articles about it during the summer of 2024, but backed off after I had submitted my findings up to that point to the Department of Defense. In short, the totality of evidence associated with the 2023 Las Vegas alien incident proves beyond any doubt that we are not alone. It also proves that there is a cover-up. The Pentagon knows about this incident but will not comment on it. Scott Roeder, a world-renowned crime scene reconstruction expert with more than 30 years' experience, along with members of his team, analyzed the 1 minute and 41 second long cell phone video filmed by a Las Vegas family during the early morning hours of May 1st, 2023. The video captured numerous non-human intelligent beings. Just before midnight on April 30th, 2023, a bluish-green object fell from the sky, an object some believed was a meteor. It was seen falling toward Las Vegas by witnesses from California, Utah, Arizona, and of course Nevada. It was captured on video by security cameras, car cameras, and on a police body camera. An Amazon-owned robo-taxi that was operating in Las Vegas captured the object falling under long-wave infrared, which showed the object had no heat signature. Two teenagers, Angel and Joshua Kenmore, were in their backyard when suddenly the object made a hard landing right in front of them. The witnesses reported that the craft, immediately upon impact, became invisible, and then they heard what sounded like thousands of footsteps running off in various directions. Angel Kenmore reported he soon found himself face to face with an 8 to 10 foot tall alien being. Angel also stated that when he locked eyes with this being, he became temporarily paralyzed. After escaping the yard, the two teenagers reported what had happened to their parents, Bobby and Contra. The father and two sons armed themselves with handguns and attempted to enter the yard, while the mother filmed the action with her cell phone. However, no sooner did they enter the expansive yard, which contained various vehicles and heavy equipment, an alien being scared them back out again. Contra continued to film the expansive backyard area for a short period of time, and they then decided to call 911 for police assistance. Angel and his father, Bobby, reported seeing two tall alien beings in the backyard to the 911 dispatcher. By the time two officers with the Las Vegas Metro Police Department arrived on the scene over an hour later, the beings and craft were apparently gone. The incident was widely reported at the time, but interest in it died down as time went on. However, I have continued investigating the incident and report my findings on my channel regularly. It took almost a year before we were able to confirm unequivocally that the Kenmores were telling the truth about what happened. The short cell phone video captured more than tall alien creatures. It also captured short creatures as well that looked like the oft-reported short gray aliens. Debunker Mick West, who told Inside Edition in September 2023 that the object was a meteor and that the family members were likely scared by raccoons and coyotes, refused a $5,000 offer from Rotor last year to analyze the evidence himself to see if he can refute it. No researcher, scientist, or debunker has to this point provided any analysis that refutes this incident. In fact, nobody, not even any of the bigger names within the UFO community, will even comment on it, which many of us find strange considering none of these people have ever been able to provide anything close to this level of proof. I know it has largely been the policy of the New York Times over the years to ridicule reports of aliens and UFOs. However, this is the biggest story of all time. Nothing else compares to it. This proves we are not alone. Below you will find several links to some of the most recent podcast episodes I published with regard to the incident. You will see within those videos the evidence of which I speak. Also, for the record, I spent 14 years as a local government reporter for newspapers in Pennsylvania, Iowa, and Hawaii. I know what kind of story I have here, and I would not be reaching out to the New York Times otherwise. So that's what I sent to the New York Times, ladies and gentlemen, because, do I expect them to respond? No, I do not. I don't expect them to do anything with this. I expect them to act like the rest of these mainstream outlets. They're going to keep it a secret from everybody out there, right? And you know what? The whole world, it's time that you know. Everyone out there needs to know that we're not alone. There's some kind of a presence here with us. They abduct people. They're creating, apparently, according to some researchers, I can't prove this. I don't know about this part, right? Some people are saying there's hybrids living among us. They look like people, but they're not. That's what they've been doing. That's what that was the whole purpose of these abductions, to infiltrate our human race, to take us over at some point, according to some researchers. The New York Times wants to pretend that this isn't the biggest story of all time. That's okay. That tells you all you need to know about the New York Times, okay? But hey, we'll give them a chance. We'll see what they do. We'll see if they do anything. But I doubt it. Just like what happened with everything else that I tried with this case over the years, right? I'm laying it out for everyone out there. This is a real phenomenon. There's something really here. These beings are actually real. All these people who have encountered them over the years, right? Guess what? They were telling you the truth, right? They're telling you the truth. These things really happen to them. And if people want to keep living like this and pretending it doesn't mean anything, well, that's your problem. Then you're living in a fantasy land. The reality is something is here, and it's about time, just like the people in the age of disclosure we're talking about. It's very, very important that the scientific community get involved. The entire scientific community needs to start taking this seriously. Everybody needs to start talking about this. We need to figure out what's going on and stop living like this, pretending like there's nothing to this when we see now that there is something to it for sure. There's no excuse at this point. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to say that's where we are at this point in time. Some of us have been trying, others have not been trying. I don't know what the whole. I don't know the reasons why some people don't want to talk about this as much. But I think it's important that we all think about this seriously and we take steps. The scientific community. What are you doing? It's time. It's the wait is. You've been waiting too long. I know you think it's ridiculous, right? But guess what? It's not. It's real. Anyway, I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.